You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers about hikers for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. This is the second to last podcast I'll be producing in the normal way, as I'm less than a week away from leaving for the UK, then on to France and Spain for my Camino. Naturally, I've given myself some sharp targets to reach before I go, which includes getting next week's episode finished by next Monday, as well as the latest Trail Dames episode. By the way, I've already uploaded all the Trail Dames shows that will take us through to when I return mid-June. I have had a heck of a time trying to edit this week's show, as Guinevere Drabik didn't have a decent microphone and we had to use the mic on her computer, which sounds a little bit tinny. Along with that, she had an extraordinarily determined dog, which even though you don't see video, I can see the dog all the time, desperate to try to get in on the act. Editing the dog took half my time. Nonetheless, she is a compelling guest, and I hope you're able to get through the not-so-good sound and listen to what she has to say. I found her fascinating, and she'll be on in a moment. I am delighted to report that I've worked out how to record Beth and Andrew and Dave while I'm abroad, and the sound I'm getting from them is really good. They're all back today, with Dave crossing the 500-mile mark and Beth and Andrew getting over 250 miles, both important milestones, and we're going to hear from them after Guinevere. Once again, thanks to all of you who've reached out to me after my accident. I'm definitely on the mend, and I appreciate the kind words. So now, let's get to it and meet Guinevere Drabik, or Lucky. Our guest today spent some time hiking, I think it was last Thanksgiving, with a previous guest, a guy called Vegas. Now, Vegas was such a big fan of this young woman, he suggested I call her. And her name is Guinevere Drabik, or Drabik?
Drabik,
yes. Or Lucky. Hey, Guinevere, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Howdy, hey. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Howdy, hey. Is that your welcome expression? Excellent.
It is. I really like howdy, hey. I don't know. I do a lot of networking for my current job, and I'm tired of doing these icebreakers where everyone's like, hi. I'm like, no, we have so many great greetings in the English language. Salutations. Howdy, hey. You know, we have great ways to greet each other.
Howdy, hey is a good one. I think I remember that one. And as I say, you're actually in the class of 2023, and I think yes. Even though Vegas was in that class, I believe, was he? But you didn't meet him there, did you?
No, I did not. Sad that we had COVID and the destruction of in-person social get-togethers and community, yeah. But we knew each other through a hiking group, and I am living in Midwestern exile, as I call it. I live in Nebraska, which limited trails, limited access to public lands. So Nebraska, about 3% of the land here is public access.
Wow. That yes. is a remarkably small amount, isn't it?
Yes, it's actually like 2 point something, round up to 3.
Good Lord.
Yes, so getting outside here is very difficult, and I knew a friend named Mice, and I threw the biggest hissy fit, where I was like, I don't get to go outside, I can't get to trails. It's 6 hours for me to get to the Ozark Trail, 10 hours for me to get to South Dakota and the Badlands. It's 10 and a half to 12 to get to parts of Colorado, like the Front Range from me. So if I want to get somewhere, it's a commitment. So I threw a temper tantrum, and they planned a Thanksgiving hiking trip. And we all didn't know each other and met up in Atlanta at Mice's house for Thanksgiving and did the Georgia Loop.
Wow, that is awesome. What a great idea. But I suppose it does beg the question, what are you doing in Nebraska then?
So my family's from Nebraska. I tried to escape my Midwestern exile when I got off of the AT in 2023. And that was when the job market was getting harder and harder to navigate. And apparently having a master's in parasite evolutionary sciences is not sought after as much as I thought it would be. Shocker. And cost of living is cheap. And I was able to, I prioritized living somewhere else, or I just moved back into my mom's house, or living in Nebraska where cost of living is cheap, so I can thru-hike quicker. So
quite right too.
Yeah.
And as you say, you're in the class of 2023, and I know that you're actually heading out to the PCT quite soon. When you finish the AT, had you planned to do another big hike when you finish, or did the idea kind of grow on you?
I was pretty set on getting like financially stable. That's a really big thing I like to tell hikers is like, hey, this is expensive. I'm really big about teaching financial literacy because it buys you freedoms. Like, I don't want to win at capitalism, but I can't afford to lose at capitalism, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it is an active way of me to protest how our society is built by taking my finances and putting them towards things I love, like hiking and taking 6 months off from work. So originally I was like, I'm going to wait 2 years. I'll hike the PCT in 2026.
Right.
I'll make it work. I'll go in 2026 or 3 years. And then my car got totaled out by a hailstorm, and I was given $15,000 and got to keep the car because I did the buyback.
Happy
and
days.
My car's perfectly fine. And I sat there and I went, okay, I could pay off my entire student loan, or I could get ahead on my student loan, head on my retirement, and through hike if I just keep being scrappy and saving. I can have my cake and eat it too.
Win-win, absolutely.
So that's what I did.
Right. So now you mentioned earlier on you've got a strange degree, and I never thought I'd use these two words in conjunction within the same sentence. But tell us about parasites and Pepsi.
Oh, yes. So when I was in my undergrad at University of Nebraska-Lincoln, I'm an ambitious person, and there is a Pepsi program called UCare. So Pepsi will fund for a semester of research for undergraduate research experience and like internships. Sure. So you get like, I think it's like, it used to be like $2,500 a semester. When you're broken in college, you're like, oh,
sure,
money.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And you can put it on a resume. Food, yeah. Resume, booze, whatever. And I was ballsy enough to go up to a professor who was studying ticks. And I went, can I be on your UCare program? And he's like, well, you have 2 days to submit a 36-page application and get a letter of recommendation. It's your first semester of college. Good luck on that. Or I have a friend who is a professor here who has a graduate student who needs a research intern. You could just go do that, and you don't have to submit this, what he's basically was going to be a piss poor application. Yeah. So I did that, and I worked on a master's student's thesis doing microscope measurements of tapeworms, new species of tapeworms, my entire undergrad, and I fell in love with parasites.
So that's probably quite a healthy love for the Appalachian Trail, I suspect, with the various things that float around the trail. So you're basically you're an academic, and that most people would think that was more of an inside job. How's it you became this adventurer?
So I was always introduced to the outdoors. My dad was a Boy Scout. He was an Eagle Scout. And my older brother is severely autistic, and I am the neurotypical child. And he looked at me and went, well, I have to get my Eagle Scout legacy through you. But he didn't believe in girls in Boy Scouts at the time. This was early 2000s. So
are girls in the Boy Scouts now?
They are now in Boy Scouts.
I had no idea.
Scouts. It's now Scouts. They just formally rebranded.
In the UK, Bubba, we've got guides, girl guides, Boy Scouts and girl guides. Okay. And they're the trains for me. Okay. So, but over here they do, obviously.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So my dad found a similar program called Adventure Guides, which was like dads and daughters, or like, nice. If you're a single parent bonding with your kid in the outdoors. Cool. Which was really just the dads drinking beer and going, please, dear God, don't tell your mothers what we've done. I also was an equestrian growing up. So like rode horses, and that got me outside. And I did fox hunting. So like full red coats and chasing down coyotes with hounds. Yeah.
Wow. You'd fit in well in England then. Although I think they banned it now. So perhaps you could do it over there.
Now in the United States, we only hunt coyote, at least where I'm from. And it's a pest animal. And I've actually seen the hounds get very confused when they see a fox because they don't know what it is because they're so trained on coyote. And I remember I was like 16, it's 5 a.m. It's winter when you do it because it's a winter sport. Sure. And I remember seeing a red fox walk into the pack of hounds, look around, and the hounds were still just focused on a coyote scent. And we're just sitting here being like, come on, guys, he's right there.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So horseback riding also got me into the outdoors.
Now, to be fair, and I'm not being rude here, but your given name of Guinevere, which, by the way, is a beautiful name, obviously Knights of the Round Table and so on, it's extremely rare. I don't think I've ever met one in real life. So do you know why your folks gave you such a distinctive name?
I do. So my parents were in the military. They were stationed in Hawaii, and they had just received their orders to get moved again. And my mom was supposed to end up in Germany, my dad in Japan. And they looked at each other and they're like, we've been dating for like 8 years. We just need to get married. And so they went to the JP and got a courthouse marriage. And they look to each other, and they're on the beach in the North Shore of Hawaii. And they look at each other, and they have a picture of margaritas, and they go, we need to figure out what our kids' names are. We need to have the big discussions about kids, finances, religion. Just before, like, we're married. We need to make sure we have this ironed out. So they played drinking games for the kids' names.
Excellent.
So my brother is Matthias Aaron Drabik. Spells mad, right? That's the initials. Mine is Guinevere Olivia, and it spells God. Hey, you not.
So was that deliberate? Did they know you were going to be a God? You were going to be God, were you? Did they?
Yep, I was going to be. It was planned.
So you had you like being in the outdoors and so on. You are now God, which is a wonderful thing to be.
It's great to sign because I signed with my initials on any legal paperwork, and it's always fun.
Yeah, it must count as well.
Exactly.
So why choose the AT? Because I seem to recall when we spoke before, you were thinking originally of doing the PCT, but the AT. Well, first, why choose the PCT first, and then why eventually go on the AT?
So it was 2022. I was in grad school. I was miserable, and it was January. It was no, it wasn't 2022. It was 2018 January, right? Or no, 2019 January, right before COVID.
Right.
And I was in my mom's basement because I am now a craft room dweller. I've graduated from the basement. I get windows now. And I was watching Homemade Wonderlust. I was watching Dixie's thru-hike of the PCT, and I sat there and I went, okay, maybe this would make me happy. I need to have a goal to get me through grad school, because getting your master's and finishing your thesis.
Why are you not happy? Why are you not happy, by the way?
I was really struggling. I had a really, really tough program. I was away from community and friends, and it was just, I was out of my element. It was really hard.
Right. You miss community of some sort.
Yeah,
which you sure as hell find on the trail, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And so I remember in my defiant little way stomping up to my parents who are hanging out. It's like New Year's. And I go, I'm going to hike the PCT when I'm done with grad school. Okay, thanks, bye. And my mom went, oh, shit. She'll die if she goes by herself. We can't let her go out into the woods. She's competent. I was like 23 or 25.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't let her go. And I wanted to do it because it looked cool. Also, it wasn't as wet. I can be cold or I can be wet. I cannot be both.
Cold-wet combination is the worst combination of all, isn't it?
Yeah, it's awful. You just shut down. And what changed it was my father passed away in 2022.
Oh.
And getting my permit for the PCT the first time was such a pain and just such a complicated, frustrating, and stressful situation. And I was dealing with grief going into 2023 that I went, screw it. If the AT doesn't care, I can just go. And I already have all this gear for the PCT. I'm sure it will translate. It doesn't translate over. It doesn't. I'm sure it will work for this trail. And I was like, I need to do something for myself. Because up to that point in my life, I had done everything that was prescribed to me. I went to school. I got good grades. I worked really, really hard. I, saved money. I went to grad school to go and pursue, bettering myself for job opportunities. Sure. And I wasn't happy. I was miserable. So I went, screw it. This might not be the most logical and straightforward or smart move or strategic move, but damn it, it's what's going to serve me, and I'm going to do it.
But didn't you consider, because if your mother was going to potentially go with you on the PCT, her husband passing away and your father passing away, I would have thought the two of you doing the AT together would be a pretty cathartic exercise.
So my brother is severely special needs and needs around-the-clock care. So I'm one of his standby guardians. She's his main guardian. We have respite care workers. I actually fill in as a sub-respite care worker, which is part of one of the ways I make a little extra money on the side is when our care team is sick or whatever, I take care of him. So he can't be away from her. And so she had to give up her thru-hiking dreams.
Must have been quite, I don't want to dwell on this too much because it must be tough for both of you, but it must be quite tough for you to have made that decision, knowing that she's kind of relied upon you a little bit as well. Did she encourage you to go?
She told me that I needed to go. She told me how proud, and to this day, she's like, I am so proud you did this and you overcame so much.
Good.
And she's like, I know, and my brother and I, we still have sibling rivalry, even though he doesn't speak and has about the cognizant level of like a 7-year-old.
Right.
There's still sibling rivalry.
Sure.
And so I needed a break from him because I have had to be kind of his parent and also as a young child, be a caretaker for him and put his needs over my own and learn to sacrifice. So this was the first time really in my life where I'm like, I come first.
How did you find that, Guinevere? Did you find that liberating?
It was so weird. It was so scary to learn these boundaries because my entire life I have really learned to be a caretaker and learned to conduct myself as like older than I needed to be and think things out ahead of time.
Right.
And, think about those around me. The needs of the group are more than just myself.
Sure.
And then it was so strange the first couple times being like, hey guys, I'm not as fast as you. Can we camp here because I'm tired and I don't think I can make it as far as we planned? And just the group going, yeah, no problem. Cool. Yeah. Can we meet in the middle? And I'm like, whoa, are you sure I'm not ruining everything? They're like, no, you're fine. Like,
people are very, very giving on the trail, aren't they? They'll fit in with you as much as they possibly can.
And especially like encouraging me to like state my needs where they're like, hey, Lucky, you're looking kind of like really bad right now. Like you're not doing so hot. Do we need to take a break? And I'm like, no, it's fine. I can continue. I'll be fine. Like, how about you say what you need, which looks like a snack and some water, and we take a break.
That is cool. That's cool. It's a team game. It's always been a team game if you hike with other people. And you started in early April 2023, and that used to actually be the traditional start date, but it seems to be getting earlier every year. Why did you pick April?
It felt like a good time. I looked at like what the recommended, like what the ATC says, because they have that spread of popular dates to choose. April 1st was the highest. And then I looked at April 5th and it had a really low peak. And I'm like, well, not a lot of people are starting April 5th. That would be kind of nice not to have a super congested trail and having to navigate different personalities while being really out of my comfort zone. Okay, we'll go April 5th. And my cousin lives in Atlanta, and so she came and picked me up from the airport and dropped me off at Amicalola.
Nice. So you start April the 5th. April the 5th. I always get these the wrong way. 4-5, not the Brits will say 5-4, but 4-5.
No.
Yeah. Were you pleased with that? Were you glad with that choice? Did that work out? Because you must have missed a lot of the really cold weather in the Georgia mountains early on.
It was perfect.
Right.
I got like right as spring was turning. So we had a couple of days, like I remember Blood Mountain, it was icy cold rain. And that sucked. That was awful.
Yeah.
But like
especially coming down the other side. It gets kind of slippy down there as well, doesn't it?
I think at one point someone tried to like glissade down because like it's a water slide. Screw it. He put on his rain pants because we're all soaked, and he just like sat in a puddle and just was like, wee.
Good for him.
I had actually pretty decent. It was a really wet year. I missed the flooding because of my start, and I'm very glad I wasn't as fast. I did catch the tail end of the flash flooding in Vermont. So I was in Vermont when they found Steady Eddie, who passed away.
Yeah.
He was the hiker who passed away in 2023, and we were in the area when they recovered him.
Huh.
Yeah.
That puts a real downer on everybody, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so that was really rough because all of us had heard about it, and when they're like, we haven't found him, and it's just like, oh no. and it was kind of somber going through Vermont.
I'm sure.
Well, all of the bridges were knocked out, so you had to take all these trail detours,
Right?
Because they couldn't test the stability of the bridges,
Sure.
and the terrain was nasty, more so than Vermud is usually. It was just muddy and very rooty, and everything was stripped. So I stayed on the AT as much as I could, but you almost had to blue blaze everything because it was just so tough terrain.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
you've kind of skipped ahead a little bit for me there, because I want to go back to the beginning, because I know that when we spoke before, you said you had pretty sparse physical preparation for this. How did those early miles treat you? Were they a bit of a shock?
I knew what to expect. So to give you some backstory, when I started the AT, or actually before I started the AT, I weighed 187 pounds. I'm now at 150. I lost 40 pounds on trail.
You don't even look 150 from here, I've got to tell you.
I'm a dense girl. I am very muscly and dense. It's also my penchant for sweets. Oh,
Right.
love cake.
Yeah.
It's a food group.
Yes.
And I had posterior tibialis tendinosis in both my ankles.
Which is
So
how does that manifest itself?
So there's a little tendon. So you have your foot, you have the arch. There's a little tendon that holds up the entire arch of your foot.
Right.
It's called the posterior tibialis. Usually you feel it in shin splints on the inside of your leg.
Right.
Well, that tendon is responsible for keeping your arch working and up. Mine was trying to collapse on both feet. So from over prep and just like being told by medical professionals as a woman, I'm going, hey, my arch is hurt. Something's wrong. And they're like, oh, you're just not training hard enough. It's just the pain of training. And I'm like, okay, so just work through it. And they're like, yep. And it took me begging my doctor to finally check me out because I couldn't walk. So I spent 6 months before the AT relearning to walk with better mechanics and going through physical therapy.
Good Lord. So those early miles were your first proper miles hiking with a pack, which is a heavy pack. And you're a young woman who's, in your case, over 180. So you're carrying over 200 pounds uphill effectively. Was there a time? I mean, did that work out for you? Because it's not that isn't easy anyway. So were you ever feeling this is too much for me?
So my family did a very good job of, teaching me that you are capable of hard things and you can do hard things.
Sure.
And one of my major motivators in life is spite. And I remember
Excellent.
there was a fire lit under my ass because my mom was calling me one day. And it was like before the trail, and people were apparently taking bets on when I was going to return home and quit and throw in the towel. Like 3 days, 5 days, 2 weeks.
Hang on. Do you understand why they would think that?
Because they're like, no one. There's a very weird Midwestern cultural thing. You don't see a lot of sports. I'm out in the Great Plains. I'm not in the cool part of the Midwest with like the lakes and the snow.
Right.
I'm in the Great Plains. Our relationship with the land is an agrarian relationship. You work it, you don't recreate on it. So there's not like a ton of winter sports. Like we have gravel cycling, we have running, we have some road running, but we don't really have hiking and things like that. We're getting it. We're finally getting a trail culture. We're finally getting an ultra marathoning group and like mountain biking, but you don't play on the land. You rest. The winter is for drinking and hanging out. Outside is for recreating and like swimming.
So your peer group then, your friends there, were they negative towards you? Because it's tough when people are negative towards your attempt to do this, isn't it?
They thought I was absolutely bonkers.
Excellent.
Yes, they thought I was bonkers. They're like, are you sure you're going to do that? Like, how are you going to keep yourself safe? What about the bears? And I'm like, well, it'll be a cool story if I get shipped back in a box from a bear attack.
Yeah, not that cool.
And I got kind of motivated out of spite. I was like, I have to prove to everyone that I can finish this. Was
there a complete turnaround once you did finish? Did people really buy into it, or they just say, wow, we're shocked?
They were more like, they were like shocked I finished, and then it quickly turned into, this is just a phase. She'll grow out of it.
But apparently
especially
not.
with the culture out here.
Especially
with the culture towards young women out here.
Right.
You have the Midwest pipeline, which is you go to school, you get your MRS degree, your Mrs. degree, you get married, you have a couple of kids before you're 30. I am a Midwestern spinster. I have been told since my thru-hike coming back Why aren't you married? Are you done being a
Oh
Peter
my
Pan?
God.
Aren't you going to grow up soon? And I'm sitting here going, then why are your daughters who are married coming and bothering me every day, asking me how to do this and how I was brave enough to do this?
Cool. That's, I think we inspire people more than we think we inspire them, and then people start talking to you about it, and you think, oh my God, they're all going to be impressed. So, and I understand that you received the trail name Lucky quite early. Why? Why are you lucky?
So I had really bad, I love to complain. I think there is something about the human condition of we love to commiserate through misery and complaining. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be better about this. I am so fortunate and lucky to be out here. So I was trying to be like, I'm just so lucky it's not raining today. I'm just so lucky my shoes are dry. And then it turned into really sarcastic because I was at the Gooch Mountain Shelter. Gooch Mountain Shelter. And it is raining and we're all doing Blood Mountain. And we're all nervous because it's raining, it's icy and cold. And I am now just being fully sarcastic. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so lucky. My gear is wet. Oh my goodness, I'm so lucky. It's gonna be so refreshing. At least it's not hot. And a couple of people turn to me and they're just cackling and they're like, your name's Lucky because it's just funny. You're just really funny. And you know what? Yeah, we're all lucky to be out here. So we're just all so lucky. Then we found out that I could find you the last hostel, the last hitch, the last trail magic. I was so good at finding these things. And people would just pass me around and be like, Lucky's here. Okay, get us a hitch. Lucky, go do your job. Call the hotel. Find us the last room. Things like that.
And you could?
I could.
That's cool. So obviously you must have gravitated towards a tramley of some sort, and you told me that you had one early on, but they were trying to platinum blaze the whole trail.
I did have a tramley pretty early on, because I feel like you're so desperate for connection at that point that you're just like, I just need people to be here around me because I don't know what I'm doing, and maybe they know what they're doing. And I had them, and they were kind of trying to platinum blaze, and I'm like, that's not in my budget.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure.
We had a tramley breakup when I got Noro in Hot Springs.
Oh, wow.
And they just were like, hey, I was like, hey, I know we rented a bunch of bunks and a private room. I'm dying. Can I have the private room with the bathroom? I'll compensate the cost. I'll, do whatever. And they're like, well, that kind of ruins our plans. And it's just not conducive to us. And I'm like, oh, so what does that mean? And they're just like, kind of sucks for you, doesn't it? And I'm like, oh, so you're breaking up with me. Okay. And I had to figure it out. And then I hiked solo to Damascus and then met my hiking partner, Dreamsicle, in Damascus. Dreamsicle and I started on the same start date.
Right. Now, Dreamsicle's an interesting fella because you shared a little bit about him. We're not being nasty to him at all. Well,
no.
You can if you want, but it was quite amusing. And you're certainly laughing when you were telling me before. So you hiked all the way to Katahdin with Dreamsicle,
yes,
and
I did.
How can we put this delicately? You got on rather well with each other, didn't you?
Yes, we got very.
You became an item. You're right. You were dating on trail.
We became an item on trail. I hate to admit it, but yeah, we kind of became weird trail gossip for a hot minute because we were very professional around people and just very cordial. And they're like, "Are they dating? Are they not?" And I'm just like, "What are you expecting? Just trail PDA everywhere? Good Christ, we all have to walk." I am too busy. I'm too tired.
So you're going on with Dreamsicle and you're getting close and so on. And the thing is, I know I've had this conversation with plenty of people on this show when people are couples on trail. They go through the 100-mile wilderness. They start to think what happens after the trail? I don't know whether you ever discussed it or you even thought about it in your head. But that day you're climbing up Katahdin, that very last day, what's going through your head?
So, that last day, I think I was both so excited to be done, but also so terrified because I'm just like, what's going to happen next? This has become my lifestyle. How the hell am I going to reintegrate back into home?
Sure,
re-socialize. And
it's a real thing. It's a real thing, definitely.
Yeah. How am I supposed to become normal again? And I was just the entire hike up to Katahdin, I was also so proud of myself in general. There is a quote, and I'm going to kind of bastardize it, but my friend and I were talking about it the other day, is that your ancestors pray for you to be the greatest, like to be the best and have the most rich life.
Of course.
So you should be living your life to not disappoint them in all their prayers.
Nice.
And I kind of felt that because a lot of really, like, I am a spiritual person. I am a folk Catholic and a Appalachian magic folk practitioner. So I have hot takes on, like, Christianity and Catholicism, but I actively speak out against the politics of the Catholic Church. Yeah. And I really have a lot to say. And my goal, I had religious trauma, and I've been working through it, is if I'm going to speak out against an institution that I believe is corrupt and inherently doing wrong to people and not promoting what it preaches, then I need to be so well educated in it and face my religious trauma in the face.
Hang on. How do we get from climbing Katahdin?
Sorry, it's a weird loop. The ADHD is winning today. Right. So while I was hiking, I had these almost spiritual ancestral moments because my father had died. I hit Harper's Ferry on June 29th, my father's birthday. And I was like, I never thought I was going to be here. And it was just such a moment. My dad was a historian, had a master's in Native American history, but like had been to Harper's Ferry quite frequently. And it was just this moment where I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. This is a coincidence in my head. This is intervention from whatever. And then getting to Katahdin, I just felt how proud my ancestors would be that I finished.
I'm sure.
So it's this very pensive moment of, I am fulfilling the prayers of my ancestors. I am being what all they hoped for.
And you were with this guy.
Yeah.
With whom you'd shared a lot of miles and a lot of experiences, and I think there was somebody else with you as well when you're climbing Katahdin, but you go and touch the sign. And what is that moment like for you, firstly as a hiker, and secondly as the woman with a guy who's now in a relationship with?
It was as a hiker, it was a beautiful thing to like see the culmination of it, right? It's bittersweet. You get up to the sign and you go, I didn't think I was capable of doing it, and I've done it. It's right here. I finished this pilgrimage. As a woman in a relationship with a guy, maybe this speaks to my distrust of men, but I had already told him before the 100-mile wilderness, I was like, look, I've been in the long distance game before. It's hard. If you do not want to do it, this is your time to have an out. Even the night before, it was almost every day going, are you sure you want to continue this? Because if I get off trail, do you want to continue this and try the long distance and I can try to move up to your part of the world? Or we end it. And this was just part of trail, no harm, no foul. We had a wonderful moment and we move on to a different season of our lives.
What did he say?
He was like, I want to be a part of this. It's going to be great. I'm like, yeah, sure. Right. It's a lot easier.
I know I shouldn't be laughing at this, by the way. So you go back out in your separate directions, and having finished this wonderful thing, you're high with everything, you got a new relationship, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he ghosts you.
He ghosts me over Christmas.
Oh,
over
classy.
Christmas.
Classy.
So I knew it was coming. Like I held out hope, but I also know enough of the world. And I am not naive to go, I have been in long distance. I did long distance with a previous partner, and we made it work for 2.5 years. But it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and it didn't work out because it was hard. It is hard. I was actively looking for jobs to move closer to Dreamsicle, and that was when the job market was just taking a nosedive. End of 2023, and I went, I can't do this. And then, just as ghosting happens, ghosting does. And I went, cool. All right. Guess what? It's unfortunate for you. You get to lose someone as cool and as wonderful as me in your life. I'm not going to let your reaction control or influence my behavier.
So you're good.
Yeah. So
and you're heading out the PCT. You said something in our first, just to finish up with this. You said something in our first conversation that You've decided to choose yourself.
Yes.
What does that mean to you? How does that govern your everyday life?
I want to see myself succeed, and I want to set up the most stable in like path I can. Because if I'm a woman, I'm lucky, I'm a white privileged woman, but there are still things and barriers in my way that I have to put up with to get outside, to do what I want to do in my career. So if I do not advocate for myself, no one else will. So this year has been a very big lesson in how do I better my health, my finances, and advocate for myself. Because if I don't, again, no one's going to do it for me.
Sure.
And it's not, women are taught to be humble, right? We have to be small. We have to be humble. So like, it's quite like, it's a scary thing telling my boss, having a weekly update with her going, here are my wins, here's what I'm really proud of, and here's what I'm excited to go after. And I've been trying to apply that you don't have to be meek and humble. You can still be proud of yourself without having a big head or feeling egotistical.
I feel that I met some extraordinary women, and I think the women, in my view, tended to have the most growth on trail. You know, they realised that this was it's a much more egalitarian place than the rest of the world, isn't it? So women were absolutely, if I found anyway, women were entirely welcomed on the times I did my thru hikes, and I think they all seemed to benefit from that, you know, the attitude of men and other women towards them. So, you know, good on you for actually enunciating that. So you're heading out on, I've got it on the, you're going 2 weeks today you started, is that right?
March 24th is my start date.
Right. And you did say that earlier on the gear for the PCT wasn't necessarily worked as well for the AT. So what have you had to change then back from the AT gear to the PCT gear?
So my AT gear has basically got an entire rehaul. I will actually be working as a grant writer from Trail. I am very fortunate that my boss is letting me continue my work. Her logic is we're a completely online team. We're completely remote. She has one of her team members lives in Marseille, France. Another one goes between 6 months in Argentina and 6 months in the United States. So she's like, I can't hold this against you. She's like, as long as you don't miss a deadline, I don't care. So I knew I had to carry a writing setup, which is 2 pounds. I have, so my whole setup is, I've tried to cut weight where I can. I've switched backpacks, so I have a sturdier backpack. I'm now using the ULA circuit. I was in the light AF, their 45 liter before. I have gotten pretty light. I think I'm sitting at, my base weight is 14.6.
Cool.
With tablet and 3 charging blocks.
So you can do your grant writing. Is your grant writing just literally filling in forms and narrative around those forms?
So a lot of it is creating a narrative, like a grant proposal, but it's also I am the middleman for foundations and small businesses and nonprofits. I'm the person,
some of which are trail agencies, aren't they?
Yep.
Can you say who you're working for then?
I believe I can. We're working on a project with the Appalachian Long Distance Hiking Association. I can't really talk about it, but we're working on potentially a project with them right now. Funny
enough, so am I, and I can't talk about it either. I'm not writing a grant.
So we're working on a long-term project with them that we're pretty excited to get off the ground. I've also different, just like scholarships and nonprofits in the area.
Nice.
And all over the United States. I do mostly foundation writing, so I do it's mostly stuff for nonprofits and small businesses, which is pretty cool. So I get to talk to amazing people. It's almost as cool as like interviewing hikers. I get to talk to business, like entrepreneurs of all ages and all types, and learn about them. And it's so unique.
I think that I really like to come back on to tell us about your PCT experience, because I have found that somebody who does a trail suddenly realizes all the crap they didn't know about that first trail. They bring that experience into that second trail. So I'm sure your journey will be an entirely different journey. Not only is it a different location, but it's a different style for you, because you'll know what you're doing when you're out there. So I just thank you for coming on today. And I'm going to have to edit the heck out of this dog to get the dog out of it. But you never know. With a bit of luck, I should get away with most of it. And I just wish you well on the trail. And we'll talk when you get back.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. I'm very glad for you giving me the time of your day. It's a big deal. Our time is our most precious resource. And I'm sorry that my dog is a bastard.
Nice. All right. Well, take it easy, okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers, then.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
She's a bit of a spitfire, isn't she? I didn't immediately catch it when we were recording, but she said, you get your MRS degree. Meaning, of course, you get married, you become a Mrs. It only really registered with me when I was editing. It really cracked me up. And what an edit that was. Her dog was way more involved before I started my edit, including entire conversations that Guinevere had with the dog, and they were making me giggle while she was reasoning with the inquisitive thing. It was a full-on conversation between woman and beast. I thought she was very insightful, clearly super smart, and a great guest. I hope the sound didn't put any of you off. And she's doing a project with Alder. As you heard in the interview, which was quite a few weeks ago, I also had something going on with Alder at the time, but I wasn't ready to announce it then. I mentioned it to you all a few weeks back that they've given me the Saturday night spot at the Alder Gathering this October for a live podcast. I hope that some of you are going to attend the gathering, so I'll see you there. Before we catch up with the Mighty Blue Class of 2025, thanks as ever goes to our donors, without whom this would not be possible. This week, I want to thank the recurring donors Michael Garsh, Betty McInerney, Sharon James, Sean Deadwiley, Anne Pickin, Kevin Weidman, Emmanuel Bravaramas, Brian Alsop, Glenn Ferguson, Bruce Brinker, and Jessica Diaz. Thanks to you all for your continued support. Now, let's catch up with Dave, who looks to me in his pictures as if he's dropping some weight, yet he continues to hoover the trail magic that seems strewn across his path. Here's Dave. So we're back on with Dave. How are you? All right?
I'm doing fine, Steve. Good afternoon.
And you're calling, we're speaking, and you're at the Quarterway Inn, one of my favourite places on trail. How about that? So you're a quarter of the way there. What's it feel like?
It feels fantastic, and I understand why this is one of your favorite places on the trail. This is 100% already my favorite spot on the trail.
Good Lord. So, yep. And Tina's not there, unfortunately, is she?
No, she's at some conference, I think, promoting her necklace business at this. It's for the CDT kickoff, I think it is.
Right. Nice.
Yeah, but she's got the able friend named Kate helping out, so it's all good here.
Yeah, she wouldn't choose anybody bad. You're gonna love the breakfast, whether Tina's cooked it or not. I bet it's gonna be awesome tomorrow. So we last spoke. You were, I think, at Damascus. You're at Lady Di's, and we knew you were going to be hitting the 500 miles soon. So the climb out of Damascus, how was that for you?
Well, that's a good start, right? I mean, it's always a reminder that you pay for the small luxuries of life, like dropping into a town, the gaps. Every time you come out, you pay for them, right? You climb back up, It's straight away, as you would say.
That's right. Yeah, it is a bit vertical straight away. I must admit, it was a bit of a shock to the system for me. Yeah. And soon after that, and I can't remember quite how far after that it was, you do get into the Grayson Highlands, don't you? So was the 500 miles marker in the Grayson Highlands?
Yes. It's in fact, there were multiple 500-mile markers. There's one that's sort of on a pole, like a permanent sign. And so I took that as being the close to official. But if you look at your app on the phone and everything, it wasn't quite there. But it was not in the Grayson Highlands. You're kind of like on the doorstep of it.
Right.
But in fact, that's where we camped that night, pretty much almost at the 500-mile mark.
Nice.
On kind of a grassy, baldy area.
Yeah.
And as we set up camp, the ponies started showing up in the middle of our camp.
Nice.
I mean, literally up to our tents. I was sitting down. One came over, licked my leg. They were nudging and nosing at our food bags, and we were kind of trying to shoo them away. And they're like, no, we're going to hang out here. And
they're cute.
They're fantastic. They spent the whole night time that we were there milling about, sometimes 10, 15 feet away, sometimes a little bit farther. There were 3 of them together, and then 2 more off, maybe 50 yards away. But they were great.
There's something utterly charming about that. Seeing the monkeys, seeing the ponies in the Grayson Highlands, and I don't really know what it is, because I know now when I think back to the Grayson Highlands, it's a tougher trail. It was a tougher trail second time than I remembered first time, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. No, it's certainly tough enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And but did you see many more the next day?
Well, the next day as we headed out, we saw another maybe 7, 8, or 9 of them. And I'm fairly certain we saw no ponies once we crossed into the Grayson Highland, the actual the park. I think they were all the ones that we saw were certainly outside of the the sign you walk through.
Maybe they've all escaped.
Apparently. Well, I don't think that they care pretty much about the sign as far as how far they can come and go, right?
No, yeah, they're not paying too much attention. I would have thought. No, that's right. So
No.
soon after the Grayson Highlands, you got to the partnership shelter, which was one of the better shelters out there. Tell listeners what the partnership center's like. The partnership shelter's like.
It's a kind of a log structure, 2 stories, very kind of flat area, a little lawn area around it,
Yeah.
a very nicely set fire pit, and it's right about 100 yards from a visitor center for some I don't know if it's a state park, Mount Rogers something park, and a major road, so you can order pizza and have it delivered, and they bring it to you close enough, and then it works out. And we had pizza.
And you said you had no problem devouring the large pizza that you ordered. This is becoming a problem, Dave, because I tell you, look at the pictures you send me. You sound like you're losing a lot of weight. You look like you're losing a lot of weight, and yet you sound like you're eating a heck of a lot of food as well.
No, I'm not losing enough weight to be problematic. So no concern there just yet. I mean, I have lost some weight, but nothing to be overly problematic. And we certainly eat as much as we can. In fact, I mentioned in a message to you, we've been running into trail magic frequently. So
yes, three forms of trail magic at the same road crossing. What is that? 3 competing stalls, or what?
Well, pretty much, except in sequence rather than in parallel. Right? We arrived at the trail crossing. Somebody said, "Oh, there's trail magic coming up." We're like, "Fantastic!" We arrived, and there's like a half dozen cans of Coke and whatever, and a few small like fun size M&Ms, which are never any fun because you want the full size.
Yes.
When you're a kid, and so we're like, okay, well, so we grabbed a couple things, sat down, and then some people were there kind of milling about, but we didn't really see them. And some other hikers showed up. They were waiting for the other hikers. And as they finished what they were doing, they said, "Hey, you guys want some trail magic?" And we went over, and sure enough, they had one of those big black tote things full of trail magic, full of the usual stuff you as hikers would want. So we're like, okay. And we kind of filled up, ate some food, took some stuff, and sat back down for a few minutes. They left. And within 5 minutes, a car drives into the same parking area. And it was 3 young ladies, college age. They were car camping nearby. This is Friday, so it's Good Friday,
Sure.
Easter weekend. They were car camping nearby, and one of the gals had recently finished her thru-hike a couple years ago, and they came with a trunk full of trail magic. And we're just like, okay, here we go again. So
silly not to. Absolutely.
Silly not to. So we ate some more, took a few more things with us, and that was Friday. And that was like, I mean, you couldn't ask for more. It was an embarrassment of riches, is what they say.
Yeah,
right?
but without the embarrassment.
no embarrassment whatsoever. And the timing was good because we had planned about a 4-odd day outing, 5 days outing, and we stretched it one day. And so I was going to have enough food, and knowing also we were getting to the partnership and going to order pizza. In fact, I was going to order a second pizza to take with me, but we ran into enough trail magic that it became unnecessary. And then on Saturday, we did it again. We came across a road crossing, and which is apparently just about a mile up from a local Baptist church, and there was a guy there from the church, same kind of full spread, you name it. He had been cooking cheese quesadillas for breakfast, apparently.
Wow, fantastic.
And we got to maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock, had more food, fresh donuts, the usual kind of shenanigans, plus all the packaged foods you can want. And here, in a true sign of trail magic, Steve, I broke my toothbrush that morning just randomly, not in my mouth, fortunately. But, and I'm like, okay, and I'm trying to brush my teeth with this broken off tiny little bit of toothbrush. This isn't working. So that was the end of it. And we get to the trail magic, and he had toothbrushes, packaged up,
Absolutely. That's exactly what trail magic is. Trail magic isn't necessarily a feed. It's something happening just when you really fancy it happening. It's amazing. So I guess, and I noticed from your message to me that you did a 19.4 mile day to reach the partnership shelter. Is that your longest day so far, or have you done 20 miles yet?
That was the longest day so far on actual like measured trail miles.
Right.
We've done a little bit longer, but you know how it goes.
How did it feel? I mean, because before you did this, 19.4 miles would be a long way, wouldn't it? Does it feel quite? You're now on the verge of it becoming somewhat commonplace. Do you think?
I think if not commonplace, it isn't. It's not in the sort of outside the extreme. You're going, my God, that's impossible, or it's a big day.
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to do, and what I'm targeting these days is even something you had mentioned. It's 10 by 12, right? It's get 10 miles in by noon.
Yes.
You know, and so we're trying also to get out maybe a little bit earlier, 7:30. You know, no later than 8 for sure. But if we can get out by 7:30, getting the 10 by 12 becomes much easier. Then you like you said, you can decide what your day looks like after that. If you only want to put 4 or 5 more miles in, that's easy. You want to do another 8, 9, it's not as hard because you've already got 10 done. And it's Southern Virginia, and it isn't flat. It isn't flatter. It isn't easy.
It's never flat.
It isn't. It's never flat. It isn't easy, but it is slightly easier. So the day we did the 19.4 had a good mix of not easy, but stuff that wasn't quite as hard as it could have been for over that much distance. And so we still did about 4,000 feet of elevation gain, but so
you say that you've lost a Hoy for the day for the same respiratory issue that Old Spice had. Is this going around amongst all of you? What is it? What happened to them both?
Well, I wouldn't say it's going around us per se. Apparently there is some respiratory thing floating around out there. It's just a bad cold, it appears, because people are recovering from it within a couple of days. But between the time we lost Old Spice and Ahoy getting her illness seems to be too far apart in time that she got it from him. I can't be 100% certain, but it seems the timing is just a little too spread out. So she's about a half a day behind. She should be showing up here at the quarterway because the last 2 days we kind of slid in rather than doing the 22 miles that it would have taken to get here in one day, and then just kind of rolling in late afternoon, refit and moving on. We said let's split it into two. So Sad Soup and I did about 15 yesterday, and then rolled in here about 10 a.m. Soup, and got here about 10 a.m. after doing 7 today. It's kind of narrowed in, so it makes for a nice, quiet, peaceful day. And it also allowed Ahoy to split the day into two days of 11 rather than.
That's how you work out these differences. You know, you all want to hike together. How many of you is in your core group then?
We're down to 3 at the moment since we lost Old Spice, and then Biscuit, the German lady I had mentioned. She's about a day ahead of us because she wanted to get to that Settlers Museum.
Oh right, yeah.
And go see it, but our timing put us there yesterday on Sunday when it would be closed, and so when we left Damascus, she decided to start pushing out to try to get one day ahead, and that's apparently what she managed to do. So she's probably a day ahead of us still at this point. We may or may not catch up to her. Our next goal is Woods Hole Hostel, 4 days.
Oh, lovely.
And then we're going to stay there, and then we're going to zero there. But it's 4 days of 70-ish miles, so it's definitely not a
Yes. This ain't a walk in the park anymore, is it?
No. It averages about 17 and a half a day, which I'd rather do it that way than break it into 5 days.
You know what, you've got to do what's right for you, and it's got to be right for all of you as well. So you're going to break up as a little group, and you'll add different people and lose different people, I guess. And you say that you pass through the old farmhouse today, and the school. I'm trying to remember. The school's the Settlers Museum, isn't it?
Well, okay, it was yesterday. So yesterday. So the farmhouse was first, the 1890 farmhouse, and it's kind of a museum-ish setup. It's just a little blue blaze right off the trail, and I walked down to it, and it was quiet and empty as you could be. There was nobody there. I wandered around. I checked out the buildings. You can go inside the buildings, and I walked up to the farmhouse. I'm like, what a beautiful farmhouse! What a pity I can't check it out. And I go to the front. I go to the front door, and I turn the knob, and it opens up and welcomes me in.
Nice.
So I checked out the inside of this old farmhouse, and it was almost eerie. was just because it's a very static display, right? Everything is kind of the way it would have been
Sure.
back then. And it was kind of darkish, but not dark, and quiet. And it's just me. And you just kind of walk around. It's like a ghost wandering through the house of, that nobody lives in. And
I don't think I knew about it. So that's a Blue Blaze Trail. Well, that's the answer. If it's unnecessary yardage, I wouldn't be doing it, I can tell you.
Okay, but we're talking maybe 50 to 100 yards.
Yeah, right? you're not talking my language there at all. But the school, the Settling Museum, you couldn't go into it? Because that normally you could, yeah?
I think there's something else that's an actual settlers museum, and it's right in that same area. The schoolhouse is open like normal, and that was our third day in a row of trail magic. Right, we walked in, and they have their bins full of sorts of trail magic, and we sat there for a little while, and it was neat to see as well.
You must be feeling quite cherished by the trail right now. Oh no, I'm not joking. I mean, it did feel that way to me when I got regular trail magic. It was just a wonderful feeling of being, I don't know, enfolded by the trail, and it's a warm feeling that really just warms your heart, doesn't it?
Absolutely, the embrace of the system, the trail, the people, and you talk also about food, and so we look at losing weight, and you describe and all that, but every time you come across trail magic, at least I do, I end up eating 1,000 calories worth of a honey bun, this one, hey, those look good too, and have a Coke, and so I mean, you certainly augment your calorie intake, and I think the strange part that your listeners can hear and may or may not be able to relate to is that the more you eat, the more you want to eat. It's like, it's just, I mean, you've just eaten lunch.
I resemble that remark. I do definitely resemble that remark.
And you walk away from lunch, and then half an hour later, you got trail magic, and you go, okay, cool. And you eat another 1,000 calories worth of honey buns. Yeah. And then you go move on, and then there's times for dinner, and you sit down and you have your dinner, right? I mean,
the thing is though, and you are doing nearly 20 miles a day. So, that's going to really, you burn a heck of a lot of calories. I think they said an average man burns between 5,000 and 7,000 calories per day, which is extraordinary when you think about it. So, you certainly cannot eat enough while you're out there. I mean, it's just not possible to sustain the amount of calories you probably need. Are you feeling well? Because you've had problems with your legs a bit, haven't you? So how are your legs feeling?
No, everything's great. It's a little bit of the early Achilles things that's more or less gone. I have nothing going on right now that isn't expected. Even the day-to-day soreness, it's fine. No, like muscle soreness, no stiffness. The only thing I notice, you get up in the morning, your feet hurt a little. I think your feet swell a little overnight or something. Yeah. And then you just put your shoes on, you walk around for 5 or 10 minutes, and it kind of goes away because you push the swelling out. Beyond that, everything is feeling good. I'm pleased with that. One more comment on the hunger thing, because it reminded me, I think that, something I never would have understood. It's like, you eat a big meal, you're stuffed, you won't consider eating again until dinner or whatever. But I find that the hunger returns quickly. You eat your breakfast, half an hour later, all of a sudden your stomach starts grumbling. It's like you become a food processor, a machine that just kind of takes it in, grinds it out, and moves it along as quickly as possible. To be fair, you did actually give it a better name last week. You said you were eating like a human garbage can. So I prefer the sound of that. All right, man. Well, look, good to know you're well. Good to know it's going well. And give my love to Neville when you get there. She's absolutely
a big fan of Neville's, as you know. And
yes, I do.
And I'm sure you're going to have a lovely time there. And remember, I hope they still do it. I'm sure they do. You at Neville's, you gather round in a circle. I think you hold hands. I'm not quite sure. And you have a moment's silence. And then you break the silence. You introduce yourself, and you say something you're grateful for. So be ready for that, because it's a very meaningful moment. And the more times I've done it, the more it's become meaningful to me. So just think of it.
I do appreciate that, and I've intentionally chosen to take my next 0 at Woods Hole, so that's part of it all. So, yep.
All right, mate. Well, look, well done, and we'll speak soon. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers, then. Bye.
Bye.
Man, he's getting a lot of trail magic, and it's special when that happens. You even kind of hesitate to eat anything as you're approaching roads, just in case there's a bit of food love coming your way. It's always a special moment when you see a small tent set up. I've got great memories of times like that. And he's at another of those special places on trail, the Quarterway Inn. It's a place I always recommend and one I have very fond memories of, not least because when I wore their loaner clothes, I actually chose a skirt to wear all day. I'm still not sure what that was all about, but both Tina and I remember it very well. Now, Beth and Andrew have run into a friend of the show, and they've spent 2 nights at a little place that we used to call the Vortex. Here they are. Hey, Beth. Hey, Andrew. How are you?
Good. We're good.
I'm good. Thank you.
And where are you?
We are at Standing Bear Farm.
I never thought you'd stay there, Beth. I got to tell you. And you know why I'm saying that.
I know why you're saying that.
I love it. I love it here.
So I want to talk about that in a minute because I think that's pretty cool.
Okay.
And last time we spoke, I think you were at Yellow Creek Shelter, I believe, and you were heading to the Smokies the next day. So
Yeah.
it's quite a moment, isn't it, when you cross the dam?
Yes. Yeah. That was a cool moment. Thinking, okay, we're gonna go up into the Smokies, and yeah, it's kind of daunting just because you hear so much about them.
It is daunting, and it looks daunting. It gets bigger and bigger the further across that dam you get, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what was it like? Because I know that first climb up out of the, once you hit the path and you start going up and up and up and up. How did you find it?
Well, I mean, for me, the second day was the hardest. I think, I don't know why, but it just seemed like we were going up and up and up and up and up. I don't know, but the views were beautiful.
Oh yeah. It's funny actually. I people say you don't get many views on the Appalachian Trail. I think you get tons of damn views on the Appalachian Trail. I mean, there's a lot of time going through the Green Tunnel, which you haven't really hit yet, have you? Because the weather is it getting green? Is it getting greener
really
yet? Is it getting springtime yet?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because when you come down into between the gaps, and stuff, then, I mean, it gets greener as you come down and then less green as you go up a hill.
Yes.
Or mountain, whatever, not a hill.
and you say, and I've got to say, I think I might put a call in for this one myself. You said you heard the worst snorer you've ever heard.
Oh.
That is quite a statement.
Man, he was world champion snorer. And it was funny because when we came into where the shelter was, he was already sleeping and he was snoring, and we still stayed there.
We were hoping that he'd get so much nap time that he would be up all night long so he wouldn't be snoring.
And his poor friends, there were like 4 guys from Minnesota, and they were section hiking, and they knew how much he snored, and they warned us, and they did not sleep hardly at all.
I bet they didn't. And so you were in your tent, I presume.
No, we were in the shelter because there weren't that many people there, and we were supposed to stay in the shelter.
Oh, crikey, yeah. Even though there were section hikers there, there must be other through hikers around, surely.
Not at that one. There didn't seem like there were that many people. There were probably only, 4 people, like maybe 10 total people there.
Maybe they passed by and heard him snoring and went straight on.
No kidding. No kidding.
And then you got to Klingman's Dome. What's your first impressions of Klingman's Dome?
It was great. You finally get to see, what you just climbed up. But what I thought was really the coolest part is when the trees change from whatever the lower altitude trees, I don't remember what those are called, and then the tree line to the pine trees. It's just like a wall of trees. It just turns into the complete different scenery.
Very dark,
beautiful.
Very dark down in there, isn't it?
Yeah, but it smells so good.
Beautiful.
I had a feeling I was going to get mugged by a bear while I was going through there. It was so damn.
We have not seen a bear yet. We haven't seen one.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I almost stepped on the world's largest snake, though.
Nice. Took us through that.
We were just walking around the corner, and I was in the front as usual because it's my job to look out for these snakes. And I'm, minding my own business, and turn around the corner, and I look down at my feet, and there was just this big black snake just coiled up, not moving. And I jumped a good 3 feet out the way. And
I don't care how big and brave you are. When you see a snake for the first time, you jump every time, don't you?
Yeah.
It's just all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, there's a snake there.
And you did an interesting thing. You took a shuttle from Klingman's down into Gatlinburg, and even more extraordinary was the confidence of Andrew to get a hiking tattoo, apparently, with about with still just under 2,000 miles to go. So, what prompted that then, Andrew?
Well, so my whole upper from my elbow up to my shoulder is like a hexagon grid. So anywhere I travel to, then I'll just fill in a spot. It's kind of like a honeycomb shape, kind of. So they're all fit together. And then as we progress on the trail, then I'll just fill one up all the way from my elbow up to my shoulder. And so it'll be like my own little personal Appalachian Trail on my arm.
Very cool. Oh, that's very cool. Great idea. Now, I presume, Beth, you haven't gone crazy and done likewise?
No.
But when we're done, when we finish, she says she's going to get one.
Yeah, I'll get one. It's not probably going to be a big one. It's not going to be a sleeve or anything.
I must admit, I love them, but my flabby old arms wouldn't be very good anyway. So you took the shuttle then back from by the way, what do you think of Gatlinburg as a matter of interest?
Oh my gosh.
I don't recommend it.
Well, it's so touristy. It's like, it was weird.
Yeah, it was just a big tourist trap.
But we did get food there, so that was good.
Yeah.
I know that when I went there, and I wrote about it actually, and I was a bit unkind to the place, but I was the fool in that particular time. But I found that it was that all the people around me, when I've been so used to not having people around me, that I found quite unsettling in Gatlinburg for that very reason.
Yeah.
So you went back to Klingman's, and then you made an amazing discovery. Something you lost.
So that was crazy. So we had stayed in the shelter, and I know when I put on my backpack, what happened was my CNOC and my Sawyer squeeze fell out of my bag. I mean, I really think it fell out there. Anyway, and I was like, crap. So I went into Gatlinburg and got a new one because I needed it.
Yeah.
And then we got up to Klingman's Dome to start from, right from there again. And there it was, sitting on the sign, all my stuff.
But you think two people at the shelter found it and put it place where you sit?
I think there was a guy named Adam and then a guy named Jack, and I think they found it and just knew it was mine because there were only a few people in that shelter, and then they just said, "Oh, well, we'll just put it up there because we know that they're going into Gatlinburg and then coming back." So
that is so cool. That's
that's very cool.
Real trail magic. That is.
Yes, it is.
And you said you met, you said a lot of vacationers are on the trail, and you met some nice people who are interested in our thru-hike. That's something that surprised me early on. People were fascinated as if they'd never heard of the idea of a thru-hike. Did you have many conversations like that?
Well, we had a few just people who were saying, "Oh, are you through hiking?" And then they would ask, like, "So when did you start?" And and everything. Yeah, it was nice. It was really nice. There was a couple. They were from someplace in the South, and they were really like, maybe we should try that. I mean, I think they just look and see and think, maybe it's not so daunting. Maybe someday.
You've heard my show a few times, Beth, and that happens to people. They often meet somebody, they see a thru-hiker, and they think, "Wow, what a great idea!" And they actually get on trail. So you two may have inspired somebody to go out and do it, and I think that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah.
And you say you really love the Smokies. I mean, I did as well, by the way. And how many days were you actually in there?
About 5, maybe.
5 or 6. I think it was 3 up and 2 or 3 down.
Yeah, something like that.
And you met
yesterday was very hard. We came out and we did like 18 and a half miles.
Wow.
And it was tough. It was tough.
I'm glad we were going down it, though. I would much rather be going down that hill or that mountain than up the other way, because that would have been even worse.
Well, Beth said that the difficulty was in the uphill at the end, which I presume is the last bit. Once you get out, you cross over you go underneath the bridge, I think it is, or over the bridge.
Over the bridge.
And you go uphill after that, didn't you?
Oh, total uphill. And we were just dead, and it was hot, and we were just sweaty, and yeah, it was tough.
They have pizza here at the hostel in the last 2 miles. I was just thinking about that pizza to get me through.
And you met my friend Amanda, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I seen
that was so cool.
I seen on Facebook that she was going to go out into the Smokies. So I wondered if you'd meet. How did you find out who she was, or she find out who you were?
That was really funny. We actually were both walking the same direction and kind of passing each other or whatever, saying hi. And then we stopped at the shelter, and she was just going to stop and, I don't know, take a break. And then, and then we were talking about like the hurricane and what, kind of damage there would be ahead of us. And she said, well, I was listening to Mighty Blue the other day, and Dave says, and we were like, well, we're Andrew and Beth. And she said, I'm Amanda. And she had texted me, and, it was just hilarious.
Oh, how nice. How nice. I love it when that happens. So let's talk about Standing Bear Farm. You said it's much like a hippie commune. I couldn't agree more. But try to give some sense of what it's like to people.
It's not much like a hippie commune. It is a hippie commune.
There is not a working bathroom. It is porta potties, and they have one shower for about 40 people.
Yeah. Oh, really?
But the people are super nice. Nice.
They are.
They had a Easter buffet. They fed everybody last night and had music playing in the yard for other holidays.
I know that that was a place that we used to refer to it as the Vortex. People would turn up there and stay there for 5 or 6 days. Because it's kind of cool, isn't it?
I love it here. In fact, the guy that we started with, Steve, his name is Frisbee. The kid we started at Springer Mountain. He's here. He's been here for a week.
And he got brought here from Fontana Dam, and he's been here for a week, and he finally, I think maybe he's going to leave today.
It's funny how it goes. But you, despite the fact there's porta potties and one shower, you staying for a second night.
Yeah, we got slap packed today, which we needed after yesterday. We really did. So yeah, we went to Brown Gap.
Yeah.
And then they brought us to Brown Gap, and then we slack packed back.
Right. So what mile are you at now then?
Well, so I don't know. We're probably close to 250, we'll say.
Yeah, we're close to that.
Nice. Dave passed 500 the other day, so he's doing well. He's at the quarter way in right now, in fact. So that's pretty cool. It's all cool. You're both going about the same pace as it happens. So I'm glad you're both doing. And what about any injuries or any tweaks at all?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Good. Okay. Well, I want to make sure you do get a tattoo, so we're going to hold you to that at the end.
Okay. My sunglasses are perfectly fine. I finally got them out of my tent.
Forgot about that. Yeah, classic. So the bad luck didn't continue. Then I'm pleased. I'm pleased.
No,
right.
No.
I'm pleased to hear that. All right, guys. Well, thanks for calling in, and we'll catch up next time. Okay.
Okay. Sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Cheers, then.
Bye.
Bye. I think that Andrew getting a hiker tattoo is a very positive statement for somebody at just over 12% through the trail, though they're clearly having a blast. And they met a friend of the show, Amanda Aguilard. As I say, I saw that she was out in the Smokies, and I hope that she ran into the two of them. Small world, eh? And for those of you who have never visited Standing Bear Farm, we weren't being unkind. It's a trip. It truly is. And you really have to visit the place to feel the atmosphere that is undeniable while you're there. I must admit, I would have bet a lot of money and lost that Beth would not spend a second night there. I'm so pleased they did that. So there we are. Just one more show for you prior to the Camino. And remember, I'll be producing 2 shows a week out there. The normal one on Thursday and one on the Monday morning. So check them out. I'll see you next week.